What's up, guys? 8.3 today, graphing reciprocal functions. A reciprocal function is in reciprocal form, right? So if this is f of x equals x, or a of x, then reciprocal form would be 1 over that. This is flipped upside down. The parent function, just the basic one, is just 1 over x. It's going to have vertical asymptote at x equals 0 and a horizontal asymptote at f of x equals 0 or y equals 0. Domain and range are going to be all real numbers that are not equal to 0, because in this case 0, 0 is not defined. And we'll look more at that as we graph a few of these. Transformations, okay, if you think back to doing transformations, anything here that's with x is usually going to be the opposite. So x minus h, so if this was minus 3, my vertical asymptote is now slid over 3 to the right. And a plus 3 would actually be 3 to the left, opposites with the x's. And then your k controls your up and down, and that's going to be the same. So if this was plus 2, we're going to move everything up 2. If it was minus 2, we can move everything down 2. Alright, and your A on the top is going to be your orientation and shape. Alright, if it's negative, it's going to be reflected. Anything bigger than 1 is going to stretch. Between 0 and 1 is going to compress it or shrink it, squeeze it together. Okay, so let's take a look here. We have 3 over x plus 2. See, they already have the vertical asymptote drawn in there for you. Okay, they already have the vertical one drawn in at negative 2, opposite. Alright, we should probably label that x equals negative 2. Alright. Asymptotes, we still also have our horizontal one at y equals 0. We still have a horizontal asymptote at y equals 0. So my domain and range, so here they are. Your domain and range are very closely related to your asymptote. So if my vertical asymptote is x equals 2, my domain is x is not equal to 2. Okay? My range, okay, if my horizontal asymptote is at 0, that means I'm going to use all y values except for 0, so all y's that are not equal to 0. Alright, let's look at one more. So we got x plus 1, and then a plus 2 out here. So this plus 1 is going to slide it to the left 1. Okay, that's x equals negative 1. Let's get in the habit of writing those there by the asymptotes. And then this plus 2, normally we'd be at 0, but plus 2 is going to bump it up 1, 2. Okay, and there's our horizontal asymptote at y equals 2. So again, very similar here. Domain, all x's not equal to negative 1. Range, all my y's that are not 2. If you look up here, we're going to get all these positives. And over here, we're going to get really close to 2, and then we go down forever. Okay? If you look at our first two, we got bottom left corner, if you're looking at it, is fourths. Bottom left corner, top right corner. Bottom left corner, top right corner. This one's got a negative 1, so it's going to flip it. So now we're top left and bottom right. Okay, so there's nothing here with our x, so our vertical is at 0. That's a terrible line. At 0, and then we got a plus 4, so our horizontal line there is at 4. Domain, x's not equal to 0. Range, y's not equal to 4. Alright, so we identify the asymptotes and domain and range from a picture. Next, we got a graph. We have to do the graphing and then state the domain and range. Okay? So when we graph, we could probably answer a lot of these questions just from the equation. Let's try to do that. So just looking at the equation, I don't have anything in here with x. Alright, so I know I'm going to have my vertical asymptote at 0. There's no plus or minus, so I know my horizontal is also at 0. So there's my asymptotes. You can kind of see them. They're the axes. They're the x and y axes. Okay, so if my asymptotes are at x equals 0, so then I know my domain is x is not equal to 0. My horizontal asymptote is at y equals 0, so that means my range is all y's that aren't 0. Okay, so I got my asymptotes down. I did my domain and range from that. Now comes the graphing. And this is actually really easy because this would be pretty tough to do just with points. This one might not be. There's just 5 over x. That might be a little easier. But we're just going to type it in. Y equals 5 divided by x. This is a pretty easy one to type in. When there's more stuff on the top and more stuff on the bottom, you got to be real careful with parentheses. Make sure we're grouping things correctly. Okay. Some teachers like 2. I like 3 points if possible. Sometimes that's not possible with a provided graph. What I just do is I push trace. Okay. It would normally start you at 0, 0, but 0, 0 is not defined here, so that's why we don't have any points. So let's try 1. What if I type in 1? 1, enter. Boom. 1, comma 5. So I'd go over to 1, comma 1, 2, 3, 4. We can go off the graph by 1. 1, comma 5. Okay. 2, enter. 2, comma 2.5. 1, 2, 1, 2 and a half. 3, enter. 1.6. Okay, now we're getting a little ugly. 1.6 repeating. All right, we'll smooth this out as best we can. So there's my 3 points per branch. If it's a nice point, this one was 1, comma 5. I don't really care if you write the point down there or not. Once you start getting ones that aren't perfectly on the grid, then you probably should write it down. So this is 2, comma 2.5, and this is 3, comma 1.6 repeating. All right, now we got to do the other side. So our asymptote was 0, so we should probably go with -1. -1, -5. You're going to see that a lot of these repeat just on the other side. So -1, 1, 2, 3. Call it there. -2, -2 and a half. -3. -1.6 repeating. Alright, so we got this. Do the best you can there. And again, if they're not perfect, you should probably write these down. As in you need to write them down. Take the probably out of that. Alright, so there we go. So it's really easy to actually do the graphing part because you get to use your calculator. I like to do trace and just type it in and get the points, and that way I can kind of see what the picture looks like as I'm plotting the points, and then I get to fill it in. You can do the same thing basically from second table, and you get to see the table there. The benefit of this one is that when you see the error, you kind of know where there should be an asymptote. I like doing the trace one, because then I get to see the picture of what it looks like as I'm doing it. Up to you, doesn't matter. Okay? Where are we at on time? 9 minutes. We'll see how long this one takes, otherwise we might skip one of them and make sure we do the story problem. I'm trying to keep these relatively short. Okay? 2 over x plus 3. Alright, let's make it fun. Let's add a +1 onto that. We'll add a +1. Okay, so if you already did it and it's different, whatever, it doesn't matter. I'm just anticipating not doing this one, so we're going to do the +1 here. So we have x plus 3, so my vertical asymptote is going to be at -3. 1, 2, -3. And +1, my horizontal is now here at 1. write these down just because. Domain and range, x not equal to negative 3. Range, y is not equal to 1. Okay, let's get our points. All right, so we got some stuff going on, so let's be careful of typing this in. So we got 2 divided by parentheses, x plus 3. And if you had more than one thing up here on the top, more than just 2, I would highly recommend parentheses around the top as well. All right, and now outside, close your parentheses, now outside of the parentheses is our plus 1. Okay, so if we had stuff on the top, we'd have parentheses divided by parentheses. That ensures that we do the fraction first, and then the plus 1. All right, you can kind of see over here where our vertical would be at negative 3. You can kind of see that we're leveling off, not on the axis anymore, but one tick mark up, which is what we had. Trace. Okay, our vertical is at negative 3, so we should be picking points starting at negative 3. Well, you can't do negative 3, but like start here and then work your way out, and then work your way out this way. So let's go with like negative 2. Negative 2, comma 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay, perfect point. So I don't care if you label that or not. You certainly can, but if it's right on the money, I don't care if you label that or not. Right there on an exact point. Negative 1, comma 2. Again, another nice one. Negative 1, 2. 0, comma 1.6 repeating. So that one I would want, because I don't know, is that 1.5, 1.6, 1.6 repeating? That one I want a label. Those two are pretty clear. This one's not. So that's why we have a label there. Alright, same deal on the other side. So this was negative 3, so let's start with negative 4. Negative 4, negative 1. Negative 5, negative 1. Negative 5, 0. That's there. And negative 6 is going to be 0.3 repeating. That one's not perfect, so I'm going to label it. Negative 6, comma 0.3 repeating. We can sketch that in. Voila. Okay. This one, pretty similar to that one. Up 4, 2 to the right. And just a negative is going to make this branch be on the bottom and this branch be on the top. Same procedure, okay? We can look at the graph, I suppose, here quick. Negative 1, divide by parentheses, x minus 2, close your parentheses, plus 4. Okay? Graph. So we kind of look at it and talk. Okay, vertical asymptote is 2 to the right, opposite. Horizontal asymptote is up 4, plus 4. Alright, just like we predicted, it's kind of flip-flopped. So now we're top left, bottom right, instead of bottom left, top right. And we're just going to go through and trace and get points. A group of friends plans to get their youth group leader a gift certificate for a day at the spa. Gift certificate costs $150. If C represents the cost per person, cost per friend, and F represents the number of friends, write an equation to represent this cost of each friend as a function of how many friends give to the cause here. Okay, so C is the cost, so it's $150 divided by F friends. However many friends you can get into that, okay? So very similar to this, what we were doing before. Y equals 150 divided by X. Graph our function. So there is no left, right, or up, down, so it's just going to be vertical and horizontal asymptotes are on our axes. Now let's take a quick peek at it here before we decide what our label is going to be. 150 divided by X. Let's see, $150. So let's change our window here. It's going to be pretty tall. We probably need it to be at least 150. Let's go 175, just be over that. And then negative 10. All right. We probably didn't need this chunk over here, did we? Let's go window. Let's just go to to negative 1. We don't need to see a whole lot on the negative side. There we go. Alright, so it would have another one down here in the negative, but we can't have negative friends and negative dollars, so we're only focusing on the positive quadrant 1. Okay. Let's go by 10s, 20s. Let's do 20s. There's not that many lines. I think I have down here a note to go by 20s that fits. Yep. So if we go by 20s, we'll have 160 at the top. So one friend, if it's just you all by yourself buying this gift certificate, $150. Yikes. 2 people, obviously, then 75. 2 comes 75. 3 is going to be, well, it's going to not be a perfect nice one here. 3 is going to be 50. 4, no thank you. It's going to be decimals. 5 is a nice little $30. If you want to put 4 in there, it's going to be change, like decimals. 4, 5, comma, $30. Alright, that should be enough to get us going. Smooth it out. Okay, there you go. Any limitations to the range and domain? We're talking only positives, right? We're talking positives, we're not looking at the negatives, because that would not help us out. Negative dollars and negative friends. We're up here, positives. Alright, so there it is. There's your video on 8.3, graphing reciprocal functions. Okay, just be careful of where you're putting your asymptotes. Make sure you label those. And then your asymptotes are pretty directly related there to your domain and range. And then give me 3 points per branch when possible. Sometimes it's not possible to squeeze 3 on there, then we just got to live with 2. But I would really prefer 3 if you could. Alright guys, thanks a lot. Good luck.